One of the richest countries in the world in terms of underground resources, Venezuela has turned into a treasure coveted by the United States due to its enormous wealth. Venezuela ranks first in the world with proven oil reserves of 303,200,000,000 barrels. As one of the first countries that come to mind when thinking of oil, Venezuela is known not only for its energy resources beneath its lands, but also for its underground riches, composed of some of the world's most valuable minerals. Standing out in Latin America for its massive underground wealth, Venezuela has held a critical position in Washington's geopolitical calculations for years. Now, it has been directly targeted by President Trump, and this time, everything is very serious. President Trump declared Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro as the leader of the Cartel de los Soles, drug trafficking gang. In other words, in the eyes of the U.S., Maduro is not the president of Venezuela, but a terrorist with a $50 million bounty on his head, which is the highest reward in American history. No one else has ever had such a reward. Recently, the term terrorist has appeared as a very fluid word, because until just 10 months ago, Ahmed al-Shara, who was also declared a notorious terrorist by the U.S. with a $10 million bounty on his head, is now the president of the Syrian Arab Republic. In fact, he was officially hosted at the White House on November 10th. Although Shara could not enter the White House through the main door, he managed to enter through the side door. Ahmed al-Shara's meeting with President Donald Trump at the White House was recorded as the first visit by a Syrian leader to the White House since Syria declared its independence in 1946. Venezuela described the U.S. designation of the group Cartel de los Soles as a terrorist organization as an attempt to create a pretext for intervention in the country. The United States, which does not support Maduro's rule in Venezuela, desires above all for the recent Nobel Peace Prize-winning Venezuelan opposition figure Maria Corina Machado to come to power. This is because Machado recently promised mass privatization by pledging to sell her country's resources, valued at $1.7 trillion, to U.S. companies. So, is Machado truly a leader working toward democratizing her country and caring for Venezuela's welfare and future? Or is she a pawn that America wants to place in Venezuela's presidency? Is Nicolás Maduro a fascist dictator? Or a leader protecting his country's natural wealth from being plundered by America? South America, also known as Latin America, has always been seen by the United States as a continent that must remain under U.S. dominance, and, in particular, be free from the influence of Russia and China. Regardless of who the American president is or which party they belong to, this has been an unchanging policy of the United States. The U.S. views South America as a kind of backyard, because if policies unfavorable to the U.S. are allowed on this continent, it would enable Russia and China, whom the U.S. considers rivals and enemies, to gain influence there. This would reduce the U.S.'s influence on the continent and cause mass migration. In every country in South America, those who seek to come to power always prioritize bilateral relations with the U.S. because this is far more important to them than their own country. The U.S. not only monitors elections and candidates in South America to break the influence of rival and enemy countries, but also to benefit from the natural wealth and underground resources of the countries on this continent. Is the candidate a threat to the U.S. or someone who can act in line with mutual interests? Such debates always occur in the elections of a country in South America. This candidate is pro-U.S. and will sell the country's valuable minerals and underground resources to American companies. The other candidate says, "I am the only one who will protect the country from American occupation. Vote for me instead of the rival candidate." The underlying reason behind these debates is that many Latin American countries struggle with hunger, poverty, income inequality, and drug trafficking. Despite the vast wealth present in many countries on this continent, they are unable to capitalize on it. Problems in bilateral relations with the United States and the growth of drug lords to a level where they act almost like a parallel state hinder the stable development of these countries. The influence of American intelligence agencies across the continent makes it difficult for elections to take place in a healthy environment. Of course, this is not the only factor preventing elections from occurring under healthy conditions. Drug lords, who have gained power within the country almost like a parallel state, are also one of the most influential factors. In a country located in South America, a candidate entering an election wants to maintain good relations with the US on one hand, while on the other hand, does not want to confront the drug lords in the country. This is because the fate of leaders who have tried to effectively fight against drug lords so far has never been good. Like every Latin American country, Venezuela's fate has involved the fight against drugs and drug lords. On August 8, 2005, the Venezuelan government ended the cooperation of its anti-drug services with their counterparts in the US DEA. Venezuelan officials stated that US agents spent more time spying than cooperating. In 2008, the ambassadors of Spain, Germany, and France in Venezuela, together with ONA, organized various seminars and workshops reaffirming their joint commitment to the fight against drugs. In September 2009, Venezuela hosted the annual meeting of national agencies responsible for combating drug trafficking in Latin America and the Caribbean. In 2004, with the support of US officials, Venezuela's justice system convicted 1,170 traffickers. 4 years later, without the presence of the DEA, Venezuela imprisoned 9,133 traffickers. By 2008, convictions had increased by 675% without DEA officials. In 2007 alone, 68 police officers accused of collaborating with organized crime were also arrested. This process in Venezuela has continued in this manner to the present day. Cooperate with the US and European Union member countries for the fight against drugs nationwide and continent-wide. Later, accuse them of spying within the country rather than fighting drugs. Try to combat drugs using your own resources. If it results in failure, request assistance from the US. This process is not only for Venezuela, but is a similar one that has occurred from the past to the present in almost every Latin American country. Many series and films you have watched about these events follow roughly the same sequence. This process, along with some failures experienced during it, prevents the countries in Latin America from fulfilling their desire to live in prosperity. Drug lords reach their peak and live a wonderful life for certain periods in their lives. However, their endings always turn out badly. Some end up on the roof of an old house, while others inside a dilapidated tunnel. So, what kind of wealth does Venezuela possess? Why is American President Donald Trump so eager regarding Venezuela? Does Trump really want to overthrow Maduro, whom he claims is the leader of Venezuela's drug cartel, or does he want Venezuela to open its underground riches to American companies? Venezuela ranks first in the world with proven oil reserves of 303.2 billion barrels. Venezuela's daily oil production is 1 million barrels. Venezuela earns $17.5 billion annually from oil exports. With natural gas reserves of 6.4 trillion cubic meters, it ranks 7th globally. Venezuela has potential gold reserves exceeding 7,000 tons. The gold sector employs 250,000 people. The country's main underground resources include iron, copper, bauxite, coal, nickel, coltan, gold, diamonds, zinc, and titanium. These minerals constitute Venezuela's economically and strategically significant resources. The extraction, processing, and trade of these natural resources play a critical role in the country's economic situation, external debts, and political relations. In addition to its underground wealth, Venezuela also hosts an extremely rich biodiversity due to its geographical location. Because of this feature, it is among the world's megadiverse countries. All this wealth, of course, makes a country so close to the US a target in the eyes of an imperialist country like the United States. Frankly, for a leader like Trump, who places interests above everything else, even if Maduro remains president, if he reaches an agreement with the US, he could go from being labeled a terrorist by the US one day to becoming the president of Venezuela again the next. In 2016, Trump told Turkish President Erdogan not to be stupid regarding the release of Pastor Brunson. However, in 2025, he described Erdogan as a tough and strong leader. I love him. Therefore, there is almost nothing that Trump's America would not do for its interests. Consequently, even though the U.S. currently supports Nobel Peace Prize winning opposition figure Maria Corina Machado for the Venezuelan presidency, if Maduro can establish a mutual agreement with the U.S. based on shared interests and allows American companies to gain a larger share of the Venezuelan market, he could go from being a terrorist with a $50 million bounty on his head to being officially invited to the White House within a few weeks.